We know this statistically. I know this anecdotally. I know this personally, that as a woman, as a mother in recovery, that, there's the enormous shame around the disease of addiction, but there's particularly acute shame around mothers who struggled with this. People who are using a substance in an unhealthy way to numb something are not dealing with their own life circumstances in a way that's healthy. I mean, in the end, that's what recovery looks like. You don't get sober and then all your anxiety vanishes and depression vanishes and life challenges vanish and trauma and tragedy vanish. Life still happens. And it's about learning how to live that way, in a way where you're not numbing it and you're instead walking through it. There's a saying, the only way out is through, and that's true. Whether it's grief, tragedy, anything, trauma, you have got to walk through it. You can't numb it. And we say in recovery that, the key to recovery is connection, connecting with other human beings, with other people. I can't even begin to tell you what a gift it was to begin to sit in meetings with other mothers who had done sometimes worse things, and we all talked to each other, and just to summon the courage to admit, after having too much wine, I went to a school function. I'm sure they could smell it on me, whatever it is that you just feel so mortified and horrified about starts to lose its power as you talk about it. I learned and heard early on that, you try another meeting. There are some meetings that you go into in certain parts of Manhattan where I live, where, I don't fit in with that group as much. There are meetings for every sort of demographic. Basically, it's group therapy, where people can get into a room and, bare their souls and hear about other people's struggles and triumphs. And, it is real. I have found great comfort in it. I will also say I didn't like it at first, but I think that had more to do with, I didn't like having to call myself an alcoholic. I didn't like having to deal with the fact that I had a drinking problem. I didn't want someone to take away my crutch. I wanted door number 3. Like, where's door number 3, please? And I spent a couple of years like banging around looking for door number 3 before figuring out there wasn't one. And so everybody comes to sobriety and acceptance of your disease of alcoholism, if you want to, accept that it's a disease or whatever however you define it. But it's, you have to accept that first. You can't be in denial. I was in denial for a long time, and and to my detriment, because the beginning drinking was lovely and great. I've defined my quote unquote career of drinking in 3 stages: magic, medicine, and misery. And it was magical at first because it worked. And then it was medicinal because I needed it in order to get through. And then it was miserable in the end. And it's amazing how long a person will stay in the miserable stage, and refuse to take that enormous step of admitting you need help and seeking that out. It's difficult. We know that stigma is the singular most important reason people do not seek help. They're afraid to. They're afraid to admit they might have a problem. They're afraid to admit they need help. They're afraid of the consequences they will suffer in their personal and professional lives by making that admission. And I firmly believe, I mean, listen, I was outed when I was in rehab. It was a deeply painful experience for me. It was excruciating, but I deeply believe that more people talking openly is the best way we can chip away at the stigma and the shame. The real danger of any kind of not only mental health issue, but certainly substance use disorder is that feeling of isolation and loneliness. I must be the only person feeling this way, or I must be the only person doing this to myself so I don't feel this way. The answer is you're not. There are others out there, and the key to recovery is connecting with them.